How could a person simply cease to exist? In November 1970, in a remote Norwegian valley known as Isdalen, a discovery was made that would spark a mystery spanning 5 decades. The charred remains of a woman were found, but this was no ordinary case. Every label from her clothing was clipped away. Her fingerprints were sanded off. Her face was altered by the fire, rendering her unrecognizable. When investigators traced her belongings to 2 suitcases left at a train station, the puzzle only deepened. Inside, they found a collection of wigs, coded messages, and multiple passports, each bearing a different name and nationality. She was a ghost who had moved through Europe's finest hotels with elegant precision, leaving behind a trail of carefully constructed lies. Was she a spy caught in the crossfire of the Cold War? A fugitive on the run from a dark past? Or something else entirely? For over 50 years, she has been known only as the Isdal woman, her true identity a secret she took to her grave. This is the story of the international investigation to finally give her back her name. On November 29, 1970, the stark beauty of the Isdalen Valley near Bergen, Norway, was shattered. A professor and his 2 young daughters, out for a hike in the remote area locals called Death Valley, stumbled upon a scene of profound strangeness. Tucked between large rocks, they found the partially charred remains of a woman. She was lying on her back, her fists clenched by her sides in an unnatural pose. Surrounding her was a bizarre collection of objects: a burnt umbrella, 2 melted plastic bottles, a watch, and fragments of clothing. A distinct smell of fire hung in the cold, crisp air, yet there had been no recent reports of a bonfire. The fire seemed to have been localized and intense, focused on the woman and her belongings. When police arrived, the initial assessment of an unfortunate accident quickly evaporated. The placement of the items felt deliberate, almost ritualistic. The woman had no identification, nothing to suggest who she was or why she was in this desolate place. The investigators stood on the threshold of a mystery that would stretch far beyond the Norwegian wilderness, a puzzle where every potential answer only revealed deeper, more unsettling questions. The woman in the ice valley was not just a victim, she was an enigma. And the first chapter of her story had just been discovered in ash and ice. The case would soon consume the nation, as they tried to give a name to the nameless and a story to the silent. The mystery deepened under the sterile lights of the forensic laboratory. The autopsy of the unknown woman yielded confounding results. While she had a high concentration of carbon monoxide in her lungs, the fire that had marked her had been external. She had also ingested a large number of sleeping pills, yet not enough to be the primary cause of her passing. The most disturbing discoveries were not internal, but external. All the labels from her clothing had been meticulously cut away, a deliberate act of erasing her origins. More chillingly, the tips of her fingers appeared to have been sanded or treated with a chemical, obscuring the unique whorls and ridges of her fingerprints. Her identity had been systematically erased. Investigators turned to her teeth, often a reliable source of identification. Her dental work was extensive, sophisticated, and of very high quality, featuring gold fillings and porcelain crowns. But this too became a puzzle. Forensic odontologists determined the work had been performed by different dentists in various regions, likely across Central Europe and possibly South America. She was a woman without a name, without fingerprints, without a past. Every piece of her physical being that could have told her story had been intentionally removed. She was a ghost on the autopsy table, a carefully constructed void. The police had a body, but the person herself remained completely out of reach, a phantom they were chasing through a labyrinth of deliberate obfuscation. Just as the trail seemed to go cold, a breakthrough came from an unlikely place: a luggage locker at the Bergen railway station. Acting on a tip, police opened locker number 407 and found 2 suitcases. They belonged to the woman from the valley. Inside, they found no passport, no driver's license, no personal letters. Instead, they found a collection of disguises. There were multiple wigs of different colors and styles, several pairs of non-prescription glasses, and a small assortment of cosmetics. There were also maps, train timetables, and currencies from several European nations. It was the toolkit of someone who did not want to be recognized, someone constantly on the move. The most significant discovery lay within a small notepad. Its pages were filled with lines of cryptic, handwritten code. It was a series of letters and numbers arranged in columns. To the investigators, it looked like a diary of her travels, a meticulously recorded ledger of her movements, all hidden behind a cipher. This was no ordinary traveler. The contents of the suitcases painted a picture of a person living a life of profound secrecy and careful planning. The coded notes were the key, a potential Rosetta Stone to unlock her identity and her purpose. As cryptographers began the painstaking work of deciphering the script, the investigators knew they had crossed a new threshold. This was no longer just a missing persons case. It was an intelligence puzzle, and the woman was a professional operative of unknown allegiance. With the coded notes partially deciphered, police began to reconstruct the woman's final journey. The codes were a travel log listing dates and places. Cross-referencing them with hotel records, a ghostly itinerary emerged. She had traveled across Norway and Europe, using at least 8 different aliases, names like Genevieve Lancier, Claudia Nielsen, and Alexia Zarna Merches. She was a phantom who left behind a trail of temporary identities. Hotel staff from Oslo to Paris and Stavanger were interviewed. Their recollections were consistent. They remembered a stylish, well-dressed woman, between 30 and 40 years old. She was always alone, spoke several languages including German, French, and English, but always with a slight, unplaceable accent. She exuded an air of elegance and caution. She paid for her rooms in cash and was known to request a change of rooms multiple times during a single stay, a classic sign of someone practicing counter-surveillance. She was a meticulous planner, a chameleon who blended into the background of luxury hotels. One witness, a young Italian man who shared a dinner with her in a hotel in Loen, recalled her telling him she was an antiques dealer from a small town in South Africa. It was just another layer of her fabricated life. Each witness provided a small piece of the puzzle, but none could say who she truly was. She was a ghost moving through the continent. Seen by many but known by none, her true face hidden behind a mask of aliases and languages. As every lead dried up, the investigation was forced to confront the most plausible and most dangerous theory. The woman's meticulous tradecraft, the disguises, the aliases, the codes, the erased identity, all pointed to the shadowy world of espionage. It was 1970, the height of the Cold War, and neutral Norway was a critical listening post between the East and the West. NATO and the Warsaw Pact played a high-stakes game of intelligence in the country's northern fjords and military bases. At the time of her appearance, Norway was testing the new Penguin missile, a technology of great interest to foreign powers. Was she a spy from the Soviet KGB or the East German Stasi, sent to gather intelligence, or perhaps an agent for Israel's Mossad, as some later speculated? The official investigation stalled. Despite international inquiries through Interpol, no country claimed her. Eventually, the Norwegian authorities concluded the case, officially ruling it a probable self-termination. It was a neat and tidy explanation that convinced almost no one involved in the case. The Isdal woman was buried in an unmarked grave in Bergen in February 1971. Her identity remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. She is a nameless ghost of the Cold War. Her silent story, a chilling reminder of the secret wars fought not on battlefields, but in the quiet corridors of power and the desolate valleys of neutral lands. The investigators sifted through the bizarre collection of items retrieved from the 2 suitcases found at the train station. Wigs, non-prescription glasses, maps, and clothing with all the labels meticulously removed. It was a curated identity, designed to be shed like a skin. But amidst the ephemera, they found something more concrete. A small, lined notepad. It wasn't a diary filled with personal thoughts or appointments. Instead, its pages were covered in a systematic, cryptic script, a series of letter and number combinations that defied immediate comprehension. The local police were out of their depth. The notebook was passed to Norway's intelligence service, where seasoned cryptographers, accustomed to the coded traffic of Cold War espionage, set to work. They recognized the patterns of a substitution cipher, a method spies often used for brief, tactical messages. Days turned into weeks as they charted frequencies and tested key combinations, a painstaking process of intellectual attrition against an anonymous mind. Finally, a small section yielded. The jumbled characters resolved into a coherent sequence of city names and dates. 022 P13L, 024 P18L, 029 P13L. They cracked it. The numbers corresponded to the city. Paris, Stavanger, Bergen. It was a travelogue, a ghostly itinerary mapping her journey through Europe. But the breakthrough was also a dead end. The log confirmed her movements, but revealed nothing of her purpose or her contacts. The code was a whisper from the past, an echo that only deepened the silence surrounding her true identity. For decades, the Isdal woman was a ghost, her file gathering dust in a Norwegian police archive. The case became a national myth, a chilling piece of folklore whispered among locals. But the silence was not eternal. The dawn of the digital age and advancements in forensic science offered a new key to this very old lock. In 2016, the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation launched an exhaustive investigation, partnering with the police to revisit the cold case. They brought 21st-century technology to bear on 20th-century evidence. Isotope analysis was performed on her teeth, a chemical time capsule of her early life. The results were astonishing, suggesting she spent her childhood near the border between France and Germany, a revelation that redrew the map of her origins. The most significant breakthrough, however, came from a preserved tissue sample. Scientists were able to extract a viable, though incomplete, DNA profile. This genetic blueprint was uploaded to international law enforcement and genealogy databases, a digital message cast into the vast ocean of human ancestry. Suddenly, a phantom from 1970 had a tangible, biological signature. The case transformed from a local curiosity into a global crowdsourced investigation, with internet sleuths and amateur historians collaborating across borders. The Isdal woman was no longer just a victim. She became a symbol of enduring mystery, a testament to the idea that even after half a century, a name could still be found, and a story could finally be told. Her legacy is the search itself.